plan, right? We have prototype control plan, we have pre-launch control plan, and production control plan. Prototype control plan is not mandatory because it depends on the organization who are design responsible or not, right? But yes, pre-launch control plan, whenever you're going for a pilot run or a PPAP run or a production trial run, you need to prepare a pre-launch control plan, and once it is productionized, you need to have a production control plan, right? Next is work instruction, right? So you need to have a work instruction in place, right? Yes, Mangesh sir, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
No, sir, no question.
Okay. So next is work instructions. So here you all know about work instruction, right? So I'll not discuss in detail on the requirement of work instruction, but only point here is the change here in ITF standard is that in your work instructions, now you also need to include the safety related instructions like the use of PPEs, right? In what process, which PPEs to be used, what is the frequency, what are the intervals, what is the changing frequency and all. So this is the new requirement in the standard. So whatever instructions, work instructions you have in shop floor, please ensure that you have also included a safety related instructions in that particular work instruction, right?
Yes.
This is what is the requirement. Now, next point in the production and service provision is verification of the job setup, right? So this particular clause is basically talking about the job setup verification. Now, when I say job setup verification, is it a product qualification or is it a process qualification? Can someone answer this for me?
Hồng lý lên kia thì cả. Trên mở lớp.
I'll repeat my question. When I say job setup, right? Verification of job setup. Is it a product qualification or a process qualification? Yes,
it is process qualification.
it is a process qualification, right? Okay, great, right. Now here, the important point you need to basically consider is who is going to perform the setup, right, in the process. You need to define the competency level of that personnel, and that should be documented information as far as the setup, like the job setup verification is concerned, right? Who is going to do the setup approval? You need to define that personnel name, his competency level, right? And if applicable, right? If you are performing the first of and last of validation, or if you are only first of, or if you are doing only first of verification or a last of verification, you need to have the records available with you related to the first of and last of verification data, right? And what I would say, the validation records, basically, right? When it is applicable, first of and last of, right? Here, the important point which is given in the standard is verification after shutdown, right? So now here, you need to ensure that, so you need to first of all define the definition for a shutdown for you as an organization, right? What do you mean by shutdown, right? So what does STAR mean when a definition of shutdown comes into picture? Because as per ITF, it is a shall requirement that after every shutdown, you need to perform a verification, right? Now, just for example, when I say shutdown, right, it can be the shift changeover, right, if the machines are not working, if the machines are idle. It could be a tea break, right, if machines are idle, right? When I say shutdown, it means machines are under idle condition, machines are not working, right? It could be a tea break, it could be a lunch break, it could be weekly off, it could be holidays, right? You need to define what do you mean by a shutdown. It could be from minutes to number of days or to number of hours, right? So you need to define a system for verification after shutdown. Now next point in this particular clause is your total productive maintenance, right? So here, don't misunderstand this particular concept of TPM with 8 pillars approach TPM, right? Here, what standard is trying to tell you is you can use the approach like autonomous maintenance, right? Your cleaning, your maintenance activities by the shop floor, your engineers, right? So in that context, they have given this name as a TPM, but in a broader perspective, they are basically asking the organization as to how they are carrying out the maintenance related activities, right? So like how do you identify what are the critical equipments for the organization? How do you identify the critical spares, right? Do you have the preventive maintenance plan, predictive maintenance plan, right? Are you monitoring overall equipment effectiveness, right? Do you monitor MTTR, right? Do you monitor MTBF? Okay, so these are like some of the requirements which are given in the total productive year maintenance clause. Here, the new addition in this particular clause is the periodic overhaul. Now, you also need to have a plan of a periodic overhaul. Now, can someone tell me what do you mean or what do you understand by periodic overhaul? Yes, anyone from maintenance, do you have a periodic overhaul plan? Is there anybody from maintenance in the training?
Everybody.
Yes, no one? Okay, so periodic overall plan is similar to like you need to like look when we do the preventive maintenance or when we do the predictive maintenance or breakdown maintenance, we only work on the particular specific problem, right? But we don't work on the complete your machine, right? As a whole, right? Like for example, when we purchase a new vehicle, right? The engine overhauling frequency is after every 50,000 kilometers, right? So what is the recommendation from the manufacturer that after every 50,000 kilometers, the engine needs a overhauling. Now when I say overhauling is you have to completely disassemble the machine, right? You need to identify the spare parts, you need to work on the spare parts, right? Based on the inputs, based on the feedback of your preventive and predictive and breakdown maintenance, right? So that you have to use as an input for preparing a periodic overall plan, right? And do the maintenance, right? Thus, you can define a criteria as on which machines you need to like perform the periodic overhauling, what should be the frequency. It can be once in a year, it can be twice, thrice, it depends. So you need to conduct a risk analysis, right? And perform the periodic overhauling, right? So this is the new entry in the ITF standard as far as maintenance is concerned. Next important point here is the tool management, right? So what are the tooling related activities you carry out, right? It could be jigs, it could be tools, it could be fixtures. You can have, I mean, you need to have a maintenance plan even for your JTF, right? What is the storage? What is the preservation like condition for your tools, right? How do you perform the maintenance and repair? And that too again here the important point to be noticed here is you need to also define the competency level of the personnel who are there in the maintenance team, right? This is one of the important points, right? What are the tool changing frequency? Right, how do you manage the tool modification, right? Like for example, the version controls, right? The revision controls, the tool history, the tool development, right? What is the tool cycle? How do you monitor the tooling cycle, right? So these all points needs to be considered, like along with the identification and traceability of the tool. Okay. Next point is your production scheduling, right? So production scheduling is nothing but your planning. Okay. Now here the important point to be noticed is now IATF is focusing on just-in-time delivery, right? So as an organization, what are the steps you are using to ensure just-in-time delivery? Now, just to give you a concept of just-in-time, this basically JIT concept, is part of a lean concept, right? Where you must have heard about the runners, repeaters, and strangers, right? So here, I mean, they have this RRS concept where runners are basically high volume, right? Your products, and they are consistent. Repeaters are low volume and they are consistent. Strangers are like they keep on coming in between, right? They don't have any defined frequency, right? There could be high frequency or there could be like low frequency, right? So when there are runners, right, you build to stock, right? Basically, that is nothing but your auto scheduling because you know there is a high volume which is going to come, right? When there is repeaters, you build to forecast. You know that after every 3 months or after every month or after every 6 months, there is going to be an order. There is going to be a schedule from the customer. And then for strangers, you do a PO, right, which is build to order, right? So for strangers, what you do is whenever the order comes, you build, right? You don't build in advance, basically, right? So this is just a concept of like JIT, wherein like you can have a full concept or a Kanban, like um, the concept which are used. So in scheduling, how do you ensure a just in time? And what standard says is whenever you are performing a scheduling, right, you need to consider the customer orders, right? Supply delivery performance, what is your current capacity, what is the maintenance plan, right? What is the current inventory level, right? Do you have like calibration being planned? So what will happen in that case when you consider, when your scheduling team, your planning team consider these as an input, right? They will not schedule the production during the particular plan. Now, let us say if there is a maintenance activity planned in first week of April, right? So, the planning team will come to know that there is a maintenance activity planned in first week of schedule. So, they will not plan any production, right? So, what will happen because of this? There will not be, so they will be able to ensure just-in-time delivery. Because many times it happens, I mean, you know that production is given an utmost importance, right? So even if you need to postpone even the maintenance schedule or the calibration schedule, right? So that is always considered as a second priority, right? Because of which what happens, the KPIs or the objectives of the organizations many times get disturbed, right? Are not achieved. So when you are doing a planning, what ITF says, it is a shall requirement. Consider all these necessary inputs when you do a plan, right? Next important point in this is identification traceability, right? So this, as you all know, right? How do you identify a product or how do you trace a product, right? So what is the system you have for identification and traceability you need to define, right? So it is basically how do you segregate the non-conforming product or how do you segregate the suspect product and how do you basically define a system for a okay and not okay product, right? Like a revision control, right? Batch production or shift or day-wise production or a part number basis, right? So what is the current system for identification and traceability, right? Next point in this is property belonging to customer, right? So if you have any properties belonging to customer, like for example, the tools or a jigs or a fixture, how do you protect the property of the customer? What is the system you have as far as the property belonging to customers or external providers? Like for example, if you have a tool, right, which is a customer property, and if that tool gets damaged, right? Right. What is the methodology you have in your organization? Like for example, do you notify to your customer, right? Do you report it to your customer, right? Do you perform the maintenance activities? Like what is the system you have for like notifying the customer in case that property is belonging to the customer? Next important point here is the preservation, right? Here you need to like ensure when I say preservation does not only mean storage. It is right from handling of material, right? It is like your packaging, it is transportation, it is protection, it is identification. So this everything comes under preservation, right? So for preservation, it is right from the basically it is responsibility of the organization who is basically dispatching the material, or rather I would say who is manufacturing the material. Like for example, when we purchase any new home appliance, right? So you all might have noticed that when we get, let us say for example, I have purchased a TV, right? Or let us say I have purchased a refrigerator, right? When the refrigerator comes to our home, we tell that particular service provider that where do we need to keep that refrigerator in our home, like what is the location. So now it is the responsibility of the service provider to ensure that the delivery is safe, right? Till the point it has been placed to a location informed by the customer, right? So you have to ensure the delivery, right? Whosoever, like even if the logistics or the transportation is outsourced, it is the responsibility of the manufacturer that the product is reaching safe and fine till the customer end, right? Now here the important point to notice in preservation is that apart from all these requirements, right, like you all know, right, FIFO comes in this, first in, first out. FIFO is also there, first your exit first out, where the first expiry products are used. Like in case of your medical shops and in supermarkets, right? They keep the expired product at the first row, and all those like where the expiry is delayed, right? They keep it in the subsequent rows, right? Now here the important point you need to notice is here what ITF says is along with all the like all other preservation requirements, are you monitoring the preservation condition of your stock, of your finished good, right? What standard says you need to perform the maybe your inspection activity, right? Or maybe the ensure that and that too at a regular interval to ensure that there is no deterioration in the product. Right, this is very important. This is a new entry in the ITF standard, right? So, that's all about like preservation, right? If you have any doubts, any queries up till now, please post your questions or raise your hands. No questions?
No.
Can you just drop a message? Yes, Mangesh sir, please, if you have any questions.
No question.
Okay. So shall I proceed? Just post your, can you just post the text in the chat box? Yes, Sagar sir, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Sir, according to some products, they give guidelines, rules to preserve the product.
Yes.
So, is it required as per IATF to give these guidelines to customer?
Sir, customer specific requirements are above ITF standards. Okay. If there are no customer
It
specific
is written in
requirements,
customer.
if it is given in CSR, you have to follow that system by default.
Okay.
It is like CSR.
If it is
like
not given in,
if it is not given in CSR, follow ITF requirements.
so in IATF, is it that mentioned like that you have to give customer guidelines if he is preserving our product? So some give us keep it in a dry place or cool place, something like instruction.
Absolutely, sir. Look, I mean, if there are warranty failures, right? If there are your delivery failures, right? Like how will you claim there is no warranty or like no trouble found? What is the base behind?
Means, we should give, but as per ITF, is it there any clause to give such kind of?
It is given in 8.5.4 preservation,
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay.
right?
Bye.
Yes, sir.
Next point is your feedback of information from services, right? So once you have delivered a product, right? Once your product has reached to the market, right, to the customer or to the service, right? What is the mechanism you have in order to capture the feedback from services, right? Because this feedback can be on delivery, this feedback can be on quality, this feedback can be on product design, it can be on process product performance, it can be on material handling. So you need to define a system, how do you capture the feedback from our services. So like for example, OEMs, right? What they have the dealership management, right? Wherein all the inputs, feedback from the end user, right, or from the dealers, right, like goes to the dealership management, and dealership management then after scrutinizing decide whether it is related to process, it is related to product, right, it is related to quality, and they accordingly give the feedback to the concerned department, right. Then the important point here to note in this clause is the service agreement, right? Now this service agreement with the customer is applicable to those who are providing these services. Now for example, like I have purchased, let us say I have like Hyundai vehicle, right? And I have a system of Kenwood, right? Music system. Now, maybe OEM can have a service agreement with Kenwood saying that if there are any issues, right, coming in the music system, the customer will directly come to the Kenwood or will directly come to the service industry. So in that case, in such cases, what standard is saying, wherever the service agreement is there, you need to verify 3 points. First is the competency of the people working in the service centers, right? Second, are they complying to the customer specific requirements? Third, the instruments or the tools or the equipments which they are using are verified, right, for their effective performance. Like for example, when we say dealers, we have authorized dealers and we have unauthorized dealers also. So these authorized dealers have the control from the customer. Like for example, if I'm going to an authorized Hyundai dealer workshop, right? So that particular dealer workshop will be audited by Hyundai. On which grounds? On these grounds, on the competency level, on the applicable requirements level, and on the effectiveness of the toolings, equipments or instruments. So this is applicable to those who have a service agreement, right? And then last point here in this particular clause is your control of changes. So basically this clause talks about the change management. So if there are any changes in the process, how are you managing the change? Now here the point to be noticed, one of the important points is the temporary change control. Now this is a new entry in the IATF standard. This was not there in ISO TS clause. Now what do you mean by temporary change control? Can someone answer me for this? Yes, class, I would expect the answers from you because you are all ITF certified and I believe you have implemented this system in your organization. It seems like you don't know about this concept, as I could see. There are only few people who are raising the hands in between or asking the questions, right? I would expect an active participation from all those because there are more than there are almost 40 attendees who are there in today's session. So, and there are very few people. I could see the repeated names only every day who are asking the questions. So I would request others also to participate, right, and to have an healthy discussion on these topics. Yes, Vishal sir, please unmute yourself.
Actually, changes, it is a change which is done for as a contingency plan to continue the supply requirements, and it is not a permanent. But there is no reflection in control plan.
Okay. Any other definition? Yes, anybody else on temporary change control? What is temporary change? Yes, Lee, if you want to say something, please unmute yourself and speak.
Temporary change.
There is a lot of echo in the background. Can you please just check?
Temporary change. Hello?
Yeah, please speak. I can hear you now.
Like the operator change. Example, if some order they resign and change to new operator, or some equipment, new equipment come, or some new machine come, or program of machine change. So this is some temporary change. That's right.
Okay. 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 I'll answer this for you all now. Look, when I say temporary change, now here the temporary change is basically when the standard is talking about is the temporary change of process controls, right? Now let us say, for example, I'll tell you what is now. From the word temporary, we come to know that it does not remain for a longer time. It is for a shorter duration, and it is not a permanent change. Like for example, if we have a CNC machine, right, in the shop floor, and even I have a manual machine, okay? Now because of some issues, right, or maybe because of some breakdown, or maybe because of some XYZ issue, right, I am not able to process the part on CNC machine, but instead I can process that part on a manual machine, okay? Now, this particular change, because this is a process change, right? You're changing a process altogether, right? So this we can call it as a temporary process control, okay? Because you're moving on from the defined system to the undefined system, right? So this is like it's moving on from CNC to manual machine, right? So this is, I call it as a temporary process control, okay? Now, when I say whenever you are implementing this temporary process control in your organization, there are some points which you need to take care of, and these are all the shall requirements, right? Now, these temporary process controls can be in the inspections, it can be in the testing facilities, it can be in the error-proofing devices, or it can be altogether changing the process, right? If your Pokayokes are like failing, and if you are using manual controls or some variable controls or attribute controls, right, they are also termed as temporary process controls. So first of all, what you need to do is you need to define a documented process for managing this temporary process control. This is first point. The second important point, you need to list down all the alternate control methods which you are going to use against the primary controls. So whatever controls, right, this I can link it with the control plan. So you can identify all the primary controls mentioned in the control plan, and where you feel like, right, or if like, and based on the common consensus, you can identify the alternate methods or alternate controls in case the primary control, what are the controls you are supposed to use. But here the most important point you need to notice is every time you are using the temporary controls, you need to take an approval before implementing the temporary controls. It is not like you will prepare a list, right, like first time you have prepared a list, you have taken an approval and you are using that list, right, all over again when there are use of temporary process controls. Vittal sir, the difference between temporary process control and a bypass management is same, right? Here, when you say bypass management, is you are bypassing something without informing anyone, right? But in temporary process controls, without communicating, without informing, without taking approval from concerned authorities, you cannot implement temporary process control. This is the most important point. Here, you need to review your FMES, right? So you need to have temporary process control review mechanism as far as risk analysis is concerned, right? Then the another important point here is that whatever temporary controls you have established and whatever the whatever quantities or productions you have performed, you need to have the identification and traceability for all those products which are manufactured under the temporary controls, right? You need to have the work instructions available for the temporary controls. How are you going to operate? How are you going to use the temporary process controls, right? And that temporary process controls, if when you implement, has to be verified daily, at least. I mean, it has to be verified once in a day. That is a shall requirement, right? The verification, like for example, what standard is saying is that the daily verification can be done in the form of layered process audits, right? It can be done based on the process audits, or you can have a morning meeting, right? Or you can have you can have a cross-functional team or daily work management system in order to review the performance of the temporary process controls. And the most important point, when you are restarting, right? When you are restarting the implementation of the primary controls, you need to ensure that the primary controls you have, you are restarting, is performing at its best. It means that whatever the output that primary control used to give,